Hello and welcome to episode 96 of Magic Rays of Light, a podcast exploring the world of Apple TV and so much more. I'm your host, Devin Dundee, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Sigmund Judge. Sigmund, how was your week?
It was good. No trick-or-treaters.
Oh.
Not a lot of Halloween. It's not my favourite holiday, Devin. Maybe I'm a bit of a grumpy pants on this. More tricks than treats this week. Lots of hospital goings on, and also the news that it doesn't look like there's going to be a 70mm print of Napoleon coming over this side of the Atlantic. So a little bit disappointed in that. How's your week been?
It's been good. Lots of giving out candy and then lots of candy left over, which is not great for me, but you know, I've been sticking my hand into the candy jar every once in a while and pulling something out. But yeah, I love this time of year. Of course, with a newborn, it's his first Halloween, so we got to dress him up in a couple fun costumes, which was great. And yeah, we're just enjoying it. It's been awesome.
Poor Noah. He had all of the choice in the world at those costumes.
Well, let's talk about the world of Apple TV, since that's what we're here to do, Sigmund. We've got lots coming up on the show this week. We're going to recap Apple original British comedy Still Up with special guest Nilly Ann from Mac Stories. We're going to dive into the announcements from Apple's Scary Fast event, take it back to the 1870s with the Buccaneers. But first, we're going to start with our highlight of Apple original film, Fingernails. Anna and Ryan have found true love together. It's been proven by a controversial test. There's just one problem. Anna still isn't sure. Then she meets Amir.
Have you guys taken the test?
Yeah, we're positive. We were the first to build the machines to conduct the test, to take the risk out of love.
Why do you work at the Institute?
Maybe understand love a little better.
Why are we doing this?
I thought it'd be fun.
It's just messy.
I was wondering if it was possible that one person could be in love with two people at the same time.
This film is directed, written, and produced by Greek filmmaker Christos Nikou. Sigmund, tell us a little bit about your time with Fingernails.
Well, Devin, I had an absolute blast checking out this screening at London Film Festival just a few weeks ago, and I've since been able to rewatch it at home as well. This is Christos Nikou's second widely released feature film following an early career as assistant director for such films as Before Midnight and Dogtooth. The follow-up from his debut, funnily enough entitled Apples, which was released in 2020, and timely because it happened to be about a worldwide pandemic that caused amnesia, but it was a deeply intimate and human portrayal that captivated many, including one of this film's producers, Academy Award winner Cate Blanchett. Fingernails follows Anna, a woman who begins working in an institution that works to determine if the romance experienced in any given couple is genuine or not. It stars Jessie Buckley as Anna, Riz Ahmed as Amir, Jeremy Allen White as Ryan, with Luke Wilson in a supporting role as Duncan, the proprietor of this institution. So couples can go to the institute and take a test to determine whether or not their relationship is compatible. There's two options. The type that's like a twisted version of couples therapy, as if couples therapy wasn't twisted enough, where you're being taught about connection and you go through many different layers of counselling. Or you can just walk into the building, hand over your hard-earned money, or present a gifted voucher and say, I want to take a test. That test involves the Institute taking your fingernail and ripping it out, which of course, each time it happens, makes for some darkly comedic and intense squirm-worthy cinema. And even me just saying it, I can see Devin is squirming away as we speak. With one fingernail removed from each person, they put it in this microwave-like contraption, and after a few moments, it formulates a score for how compatible a couple are. Now, this all sounds mad, but there are three results. So, a result of 0% means you're not compatible. A result of 50% means that one of you are truly in love and the other is not. And a result of 100%, of course, means that you are both in love and you're compatible. Why this process became popular isn't ever really truly explained, but what is explained is that the Institute are having more of a negative effect than a positive one, with 86% of tests resulting in the breakdown of what could have been a perfectly sustainable relationship. That's where this story gives commentary on love and our reliance on technology, which is really disconnected from the human experience, right? Now, Jessie Buckley's character Anna and Jeremy Allen White's character Ryan, they're a couple, and after being together for 5 years, after taking the test and getting a result of 100%, Anna wants to take the full course and see what it's all about. But Ryan, who's perfectly happy knowing he is in a 100% compatible relationship, says no. Now, in the meantime, Anna, who's been applying for jobs, becomes an employee of the Institute and the understudy of Riz Ahmed's Amir, who's one of the top compatibility romance specialists at the Institute. And as she begins to work with Amir, she starts to have doubts of her own relationship. Now, this film brings up some really interesting questions, like, does romantic compatibility last forever? Is it possible for two people to grow in the same direction and not apart like many relationships tend to? And is it possible also to maybe be compatible with two people at one time? Another element of this that I think you're going to take away beyond the screen time is Jessie Buckley's performance. If you witnessed a performance in Charlie Kaufman's I'm Thinking of Ending Things and felt that performance course through your bones, I think you're going to absolutely love her performance here. It's a role of complexities that, as a viewer, you're going to walk away with different interpretations of her choices from maybe the person sat next to you. You're asked if Ryan is wrong in being content, if Amir is maybe leading Anna on, and if Duncan's Institute is more than just a little morally ambiguous. And do songs sung in French really just become instantly romantic? Fingernails really is a film that captures what the idea of love is. It presents those questions, I think, to a generation obsessed with dating apps that teach its users not to necessarily be content, but to continue using the app. That's probably why you won't find one cell phone in the world Christoph Snicko has created here. Now, given all of that, I think you can tell that there is so much of this film that I truly enjoyed. And whilst reviews have been mixed, I've got to say that Fingernails really connected with me personally. It doesn't necessarily answer many of the questions it poses to the audience, but it's a film that's going to stay with anyone that spends the time to watch it. And it should lead to some very interesting conversation. Fun fact, Christos Nikou originally asked Hugh Grant to play the role of Anna's content partner Ryan, as he felt Hugh Grant always got the girl and didn't really go through much adversity in his romantic film roles. There's a funny ode to Hugh Grant's rejection hidden in the film that hopefully you'll appreciate even more after seeing it. Fingernails is both available through its limited theatrical run on the big screen or across all of your screens now on Apple TV+. Devon, I'm not going to ask you, of course, what your favourite Hugh Grant film is. Instead, I'm going to ask, if you had to prove your love by going through such a test as that in Fingernails, what body part would you give up to prove your compatibility?
Wow, what a question. I don't love the idea of giving up my fingernails for sure, because that really sounds excruciating and would take a really long time to heal, I feel like. We do DNA tests with hair follicles now, so if it could be that simple, I mean, that'd be great. I would love that. But honestly, thinking about it, I honestly might be willing to give up one of my teeth before I'd be willing to give up a fingernail. Because, you can just, throw a crown in there. You'd be all right. You can numb it beforehand and, not have to worry as much about the pain and stuff. So if I absolutely had to, if it was a position where I felt like I had my true love and really had to take this test, I'd probably go that route. I know that probably sounds extreme, maybe a little bit horrific to some people, but that's the route I think I'd go.
I kind of like it because as someone that is still on the dating scene myself, right, I could see what's going on with their teeth and then possibly have a good idea of how difficult they are to date before going in, and probably save myself a bit of time. So I love it. I'm going to go with that. Great suggestion there, teeth. Now, for many, Apple's devices have become an extension of whom they are. And we did get some new Mac announcements during Apple's Scary Fast event. I think we've got to start with our prediction results.
At the end of the day, it was a 1-to-1 tie, Sigmund. Me getting right the prediction about the M3 chip, and you were right about the time. I way underestimated the time this event would be. I think we knew it was going to be short, but I thought it was going to be way shorter even than you did. So at least for this event, you and I are neck and neck. We're going to have to call it a draw and wait for the next one in order to find a winner. As much as you and I care about the prediction results, I think we care even more about what was actually announced at the event. So let's go through that briefly. Apple started off with the M3, M3 Pro, and M3 Max chips, all three made on this new 3nm process, including a new GPU with hardware-accelerated ray tracing, mesh shading, and dynamic caching. I would suggest watching the video if you want to understand more about it. Overall, it's just a much better GPU, a better experience for gaming and things of that nature on the M3 chips. The chips go up to a 16-core CPU, 40-core GPU, and 128 gigabytes of memory, which is double what we had with the M2 Max, so a big leap there. And an interesting one, especially for those of us who love to stream, Sigmund, AV1 decoding is built into the media engine, so it will be able to be processed on hardware instead of software, which is going to help with battery life when you're watching Netflix, YouTube, and other sites that use the AV1 encoding for their video. Now, those are the chips, but we also got new devices, of course, that the chips go into, and that's what people are going to be excited to be getting their hands on soon. So let's talk about those. We got a new line of MacBook Pros that include a new space black finish and a new 14-inch MacBook Pro with the base M3 chip, which is replacing the previous 13-inch Touch Bar MacBook Pro. So costs a little bit more, but you're getting a much better and newer device at that baseline, which I think is a great trade-off. There's the new M3 iMac in all the same colors as before. They kept all the 6 colors and silver, thankfully, which we love to see. It's the exact same iMac that we've come to know and love, just with an M3 chip, much better performance than what we had before. Little bonus throughout the presentation, Sigmund, for those of us like you and I who love Apple TV Plus and Apple Originals. We got a few clips. We got a nice Monarch clip when talking about the new MacBook Pro screen. Also, Invasion and the Changeling were highlighted throughout the presentation as well. Apple continues to be very proud of their originals, whereas maybe before you would see things from the iTunes Store used as examples of the screen technology and playback. Now we've got Apple Originals in there, and I'd love to see that.
One thing that was a highlight for me, we got a lovely Welcome to My Lab by Johnny Sarugi. Great delivery. I thought it was the highlight of the show. And then also, all of the furniture was black. And for someone that does like darker furniture but still wants to kind of fit in with the Apple aesthetic, got some great ideas. So I thought that was really cool. The big part of this presentation for me was right at the end, where we got the Apple logo with the clouds over it, going into the full Apple logo, and then it appeared, shot on iPhone. This has been a bit of a controversial statement for some. I'm not too sure why. I think Stephen Robles put it the best in his video, where he said, it's called filmmaking. And I wanted to talk about this because there had been some weird takes, one of them from The Verge, which blew my mind, about the fact that because there were massive rigs around this and the use of lighting and everything, it was a disingenuous thing to say it was shot on iPhone. And we talked, I think, not that long ago about The Creator being produced on the Sony FX3, which is like a $3,000 camera that anyone can pick up. Of course, you start adding lenses and filters and all sorts and CG. And of course, there's more to the story. But I think there's more value in saying shot with iPhone I think that statement really lends itself to what is possible with the new iPhone and the Blackmagic camera app that released alongside it, which they used for this production. What are your thoughts on all of this, Devin? Are you much along the same mindset as me?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I was blown away when I saw that in the credits because you just couldn't tell watching the production, right? It didn't feel particularly different from a cinematography perspective than Apple's previous events. It all looked very well done and professional. If they had tried to do this with an iPhone, even 3 or 4 years ago, I think the result would have been very different, and the process, of course, would have been very different as well. What's incredible to me is that you can take this, multi-million-dollar production and just take out the camera and put the iPhone in, and it just fits in with all the rest of this professional equipment, with the lighting, with the microphones, with the video capture and all of that, even down to the editing setup with log support, which I think was a big differentiator here. It's a huge accomplishment that the iPhone is able to do this. And no, you're not going to be able to whip your iPhone out of your pocket on your family vacation and produce a video of this quality, right? There's still all these other requirements that you're going to need. But for someone who's interested in filmmaking and interested in learning about filmmaking and wanting to get into that world, to remove that barrier of the camera and just say, yeah, just put in your iPhone, put it in this rig, hook up an external hard drive to it, and you're good to go. That's a huge barrier for filmmaking that is just completely knocked down now, especially in terms of like education, learning how to light scenes, learning how to produce something of this quality and taking the steps to get there. I think this is a huge feat. And I'll be interested to see if the next Apple event is also shot on iPhone. Is this if this is like something that they're going to continue to do?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I think so as well. But regardless, this is just a huge flex. It's a sign of how far they've come, not only with the iPhone camera system, but also with the iPhone as far as processing and I/O, and just putting that whole package together and making it something that can sub in for a professional camera in an environment like this. It's just really incredible, and Apple, I think, deserves to be applauded for it.
Absolutely. One aspect that I would have liked to have seen maybe be built upon with this announcement was not only just the behind the scenes, but guides, right? Some educational guides on lighting, on all of these different things that you won't get at a Today at Apple session. I think that could have been great. And also, I think, as we saw in the behind the scenes video, so many people involved in the behind the scenes to make these presentations happen. Let's see some credits at the end of these keynote presentations. I think that will help those that consume kind of regain that connection with what actually goes into producing something like that, or a TV show or a film. We've seen this trend. It started at Netflix and it's continued, unfortunately, everywhere, including Apple TV Plus, where we get a countdown for the next episode, or we have the choice to watch the credits. I'd love to see some credits at the next event. What I found really interesting about this as well was the kind of shock from everyone that this was shot on iPhone when the announcement was made, because I was looking back at some notable movies that were shot on iPhone. So 10 years ago, we saw the Oscar-winning Searching for Sugar Man, which was the first movie partially shot on iPhone to win an Academy Award. We had 2015's Tangerine, which made waves at Sundance Film Festival, which was shot completely on an iPhone 5S using Filmic Pro. And then we had an established director in 2018 with Steven Soderbergh filming exclusively on a regular iPhone 7 Plus, capturing his film Unsane with minimal crew and rigging, thanks to free lenses from Moment, Filmic Pro, which I think at the time was a $9 app, and the typical gimbal that you could pick up at any Apple store. Check some of those out. We'll have them all linked in the show notes. But specifically, when it comes to Unsane, I found a really interesting article from motionarray.com, which lists 6 takeaways from Steven Soderbergh's Unsane for filmmakers on a budget. And that shows a lot with regard to lighting, which I think is going to be the biggest aspect for everyone. But of course, sound is just as important. And the Rodecaster Wireless Pros that came out recently, I've had some hands-on with them. They are absolutely fantastic for most on-field filming. So I'm really hoping that beyond the flex that we got this week, this is going to inspire many filmmakers, some that will no doubt get distribution through the TV app or maybe even Apple TV Plus in the future. Very, very excited.
Something coming sooner than that, though, is Apple original action comedy film The Family Plan, which will debut globally December 15th on Apple TV Plus. Directed by Simon Kellen Jones, the film stars Mark Wahlberg as Dan Morgan, who loves his quiet suburban life as a devoted husband, father of 3, and successful car salesman. But that's only half the story. Decades earlier, he was an elite government assassin tasked with eliminating the world's deadliest threats. And when enemies from his past track him down, Dan packs his unsuspecting wife, played by Michelle Monaghan, his angsty teen daughter, his pro-gamer teen son, and his adorable 10-month-old baby into their minivan and takes off on an impromptu cross-country road trip to Las Vegas. Determined to protect his family while treating them to the vacation of a lifetime, Dan must put his long-dormant skills into action without revealing his true identity. Now, we got a first look at this film on the Apple TV Plus press page this week. We'll link to that in the show notes. The image, of course, looks great, but I'm excited for the trailer for this one because I want to see what the vibe is going to be. This is going to be really interesting. Him trying to, give his kids a good time, dealing with the typical attitude, of course, that's going to be expected on a trip like this. But then at the same time, he's got to run outside and, take out some bad guys who are trying to attack him and all this stuff. I think it's going to be really cool and make for a great dichotomy.
How I'm imagining it, because obviously neither of us have seen any actual footage yet, I'm imagining 007 meets National Lampoon's Vacation. Okay. That's what I'm hoping we're getting here. Really excited and a nice surprise. December 15th, The Family Plan on Apple TV Plus. This past week saw Apple TV Plus celebrate its 4th birthday. And here's just a hint of what we can expect across 2024. New series including Bad Monkey, The Big Cigar, Chief of War, Criminal Record, Dark Matter, Disclaimer, Franklin, Lady in the Lake, Land of Women, Los Azules, Manhunt, Masters of the Air, Midnight Family, The New Look, Palm Royale, Presumed Innocent, Sugar, Sunny, and The Time Bandits, alongside new seasons of Acapulco, The Big Door Prize, Loot, Pachinko, Severance, Surface, Slow Horses, Tehran, and Trying. An exciting year ahead, and obviously they're just a few of what we can expect. Of course, you can stay informed of Apple's upcoming releases every day by subscribing to our free Apple TV release calendar, formatted for Siri, and relinked in the show notes after a week where it was away. Thank you to everyone that got in touch to inform us of some technical difficulties with the calendar. It is now fixed and updated daily, now also informing subscribers of any tvOS updates on the day of their release. Should we also include Apple Arcade releases? That is the question. If you like that idea, let us know via email or iMessage by sending a message to mrolfm@screentimes.net. And talking of Apple Arcade, Apple shared a holiday lineup with us just this past week, Devon.
Yes, if these get added to the calendar, it's going to be a very busy couple of months indeed, with some great titles coming to Apple Arcade over November and December. Starting November 3rd with Not Words Plus, then November 6th, Football Manager 2024 Touch, Downwell Plus November 17th, on November 24th, Delicious Miracle of Life Plus, and then on December 5th, we've got 4 titles coming all at once to keep us nice and busy over that holiday break. We've got Disney Dreamlight Valley Arcade Edition, Sonic Dream Team, Puzzle and Dragon Story, and Turmoil Plus. lots to look forward to on Apple Arcade the rest of the year. Some really exciting titles coming. I can't wait to check these out.
But what about the month ahead for Apple TV movie purchasers who like to keep their libraries stacked, like myself? Well, we have a number of expected 4K upgrades this month, including American Graffiti, Delicatessen, The Fugitive, Love Actually, Rudy, Santa Claus the Movie, Scrooged, and one of my favorite Daniel Day-Lewis performances, There Will Be Blood. So lots and lots to look forward to when it comes to upgrades this month as well. Now, for those that want to access Apple TV Plus, Virgin Media in the UK have now added the Apple TV app to Virgin TV 360 and Stream boxes this past week. I wasn't aware of this. I'm a Virgin Media customer myself, and we do have one of those boxes downstairs. So as soon as this recording's over, I will be checking it out. No doubt that's going to introduce more subscribers and more users to the service and to the app. We hear that the numbers are pretty high already.
That's right. In a report at Puck this week, Para-Analytics Director of Strategy Julia Alexander estimated that Apple TV Plus currently has between 15 and 20 million subscribers. Of course, we don't have any official subscriber numbers. Those are top secret. But Para-Analytics is able to extrapolate from data that they have on demand and what they see people are watching. And they're able to sort of extrapolate from that how many people they think are subscribed to Apple TV Plus. So service continues to grow, up to 20 million subscribers now, and I'm sure we'll continue to see that number go up as time goes on, which of course is great for Apple's services revenue. Yesterday, Apple announced their Q4 results for the year, and services beat estimates by 4%, growing 16% year over year, up from 8% in June, 6% in March, and 6% in December of 2022. The last time services grew at this rate was way back in December of 21 at 24%. So this 16% year-over-year growth is good to see. Very strong growth in the services department, which of course is an important aspect of Apple's business and includes Apple TV+. Now, Sigmund, we've heard a lot over this past year about concerns about changes to the App Store, new rules that Apple's going to have to allow developers to put links to external sites for people to sign up, changes to Apple's cut of App Store revenue, which we haven't seen yet, but could be coming. But I think it's pretty clear here that Apple services are going strong, and even these changes to the App Store are not going to stop services from growing and continuing to become a bigger and bigger part of Apple's business.
When all of these announcements are made, they're made via an earnings call, and at the end of that earnings call, Tim Cook answers some questions from the press. And one that really grabbed me was with regard to Apple Vision Pro. He was asked if the company's retail approach would be similar to that of AirPods or Apple Watch, in which Tim Cook replied saying that no, there's never been a product like Vision Pro, and so we're purposefully bringing it out in our stores only so we can put a great deal of attention on the last mile of it. We'll be offering demos in the stores, and it'll be a very different process than the normal grab and go kind of process. I'm getting excited because the Apple Vision Pro launch is getting nearer. The suspense is starting to build. I'm also a little bit nervous that this isn't going to be a grab and go, as Tim Cook keeps mentioning every time he's asked about this, given that I'm planning to get flights out to literally grab and go. That's my hope, at least. What do you think about this Apple Vision Pro launch and how you think things may possibly go?
Apple had been pretty withholding about the details of how exactly purchasing an Apple Vision Pro is going to happen. I think maybe they still don't have it all quite worked out. So it's going to be US only at first, which is why, of course, you're going to be having to take a quick trip over here to grab one. And it's sounding like even if you can purchase it online, that there's going to be some aspect of in-store fitting, probably, for the visor, for different sizes of the strap, any other attachments that they might be selling, and the lenses from Zeiss that many people will also need as well. So I'm kind of getting the vibe that you're going to have to go to an Apple store one way or another to get one of these, because they want to make sure that you're getting the right fit. You know, the last thing you want to do is get this really awesome spatial computer in the mail, pull it out, and then not be able to use it because the visor doesn't fit right, and you can't get the light blocking, or it hurts you, and then you're waiting a week to ship one off and get them to ship one back to you, which is also very expensive for Apple. It's a lot easier for them to just get you in the store to make sure that you're getting exactly what you need right there. So I imagine it's going to be kind of a modular thing, like an Apple Watch, where you can buy the band separately, you know, and they put it all in a bundle for you, but you can kind of mix and match as you go and get it exactly the way you want. Now, I think this is going to lead to a lot of people having to make some treks to Apple stores. You know, I don't live near an Apple store. The nearest one for me is a few hours away. It's not quite the same as you, Sigmund, having to fly across the ocean to get one. But I imagine a lot of people are going to have to at least make some overnight trips. You know, maybe you can make an appointment in the Apple store in the morning. You know, you'll have to travel a ways if you don't live near an Apple store to get one of these, which I think is something they'll work out probably with the second or third generation, to where it's a little bit easier to order. Maybe they could get the facial scanning app on the phone to work to a point where you wouldn't have to go to a store. But at least at first, I think anyone who's wanting an Apple Vision Pro is going to have to plan on getting to an Apple store to get one of these. And that's just kind of the nature of the device at this point.
Yeah, I'm tempted in my kind of thought process in terms of ordering, being able to try and get all of the inserts.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't know if that's going to be a possibility, but you know, if you want family members to be able to try this big expensive thing that you've bought and see the future as well, because they say that you're going to be able to have multi-user support, that would probably be the quickest and best situation, I would have thought. Yeah, cannot wait for Apple Vision Pro. And of course, one company that are deep into Apple Vision Pro, ready to support it from launch, is Disney. And we've got some, I think, news that we were expecting for a long, long time, because there is an element to this news that was contractual, but still very, very exciting nonetheless. A more compelling reason, I guess, in the future to subscribe to Disney Plus if you're not already.
Yes, Disney this week officially announced its intention to purchase Comcast's 1/3 stake in Hulu, paying a minimum of $8.61 billion to take full control of the service sometime next year. Both companies have hired appraisers to evaluate the value of the service and determine a final agreed-upon price. Now, I'm really happy to finally see this happen. There's been a lot of back and forth, people speculating what's going to happen with Hulu. I think we always kind of knew that Disney was going to buy it from Comcast. There's been a little bit of volatility at Disney the past couple of years and some changes in strategy. So there was that underlying, maybe very small chance that Disney could jettison Hulu and sell it off to somebody else, right? Or try to get Comcast to buy their 2/3 stake. The history of this service is so interesting, you know, started by all these different networks to try to get their feet in the streaming game, and now everyone has taken their ball and gone home and wanted to do their own thing. But Comcast has still been hanging on. Of course, they've got Peacock, but they've also got this stake in Hulu that's very valuable that they weren't totally sure what was going to happen with, and now Disney has finally decided, okay, we will buy this from you and make Hulu 100% ours. And this makes me really excited because I feel like Disney has had to hold back Hulu. They've had full control of it for several years now, but there's been some decisions that they've made, including not rolling it out internationally, that some people think has actually been because they didn't want to inflate its value and then have to pay more to Comcast to buy that 1/3 stake. Because whatever the service is worth, they have to pay a third of it. That's what these bankers are now figuring out on the company's behalf. And so I really feel like Hulu has a lot to offer, but internationally, of course, Hulu Originals are under the Star banner. Hulu's not its own service. It's a US only thing, which has always been very strange to me because I really enjoy Hulu as a service. And so I'm excited to see what its future could be once it's fully owned by Disney and they're fully invested in making it all that it possibly could be. They don't have this incentive to kind of hold it back. So this is supposed to happen sometime next year. Seems like pretty much a done deal as far as that Disney will do it. The question is just how much they'll have to pay. And we'll let people with a lot more information and expertise figure that out. I'm just excited to see it happen, especially with this rumored joining together of Disney Plus and Hulu, not as a service, but as an app, which I was initially skeptical of, but now I'm interested to see how it plays out. I'm actually kind of excited to at least try it and see what it's like to watch my Hulu content in the Disney Plus app. We don't know what Disney's ultimately going to do with Hulu as a service, but it's fun to speculate and see what will happen, and this is a big step towards that.
I mean, in recent weeks, we've heard about Disney scaling back their originals. In the UK and Europe, you have Star, which is part of the Disney Plus app, which brings over lots of Hulu content, including Only Murders in the Building, The Bear, and many others. So I could actually see Disney transitioning to having those Hulu originals coming into Disney Plus, along with the FX stuff. What you may lose in that transition is the access to some of those indie movie titles that honestly bring so much value to the service. But overall, I'm really, really positive about it and excited for you and everyone over that side of the Atlantic. So very, very cool. I want to talk about a really interesting report from Felipe Esposito at 9to5Mac this past week, talking about the support files in tvOS 17.2 beta, revealing that Apple are testing tvOS 17 on an iPad mini, presumably for research into a future HomePod with a screen. It's as though we've been talking about all of these things over the past couple of weeks, and they're coming to fruition. Good timing.
Yeah, we've got really good timing, Sigmund. It's a great time to be a HomePod fan, for sure. The report also included an exciting note that Standby is coming to the iPad in next year's iPadOS 18 update. So, we've been talking a lot about Standby on the iPhone, how much we love it, how useful it is, but a lot of people have also been clamoring for it on the iPad as well, to have a bigger screen that's that ambient information with widgets, maybe more widgets than just 2 that we get on the iPhone. I think that's a really great idea. Happy to see that that's in the works, alongside maybe some kind of dock that you'll be able to attach your iPad to and put it in that mode and use it as an ambient smart screen when it's charging, or when you're just not using it as an iPad. You can just have it for that information. But going back to tvOS on the iPad mini, this is a really exciting bit of information. The iPad mini size would be great for a future HomePod with the screen. I think putting tvOS on it makes a lot of sense, using that as the basis for the smart screen. Of course, we know that HomePods currently run tvOS, but to see full video playback come to these smart screen HomePods as well. Of course, we know that people love to use them not only for widgets and photos, but also for watching YouTube and following recipes and things like that. So I think this makes a lot of sense, and it's cool to see that we're taking a step in that direction.
The funny thing is, since the release of iPadOS 17, I've been using iPad mini alongside my capture cards and splitters and all sorts of other trickery and pokery to capture tvOS. So the iPad mini's screen size is, in practice, I think the perfect screen size for headrests, maybe in cars as well. I have wondered whether tvOS could also be integrated into CarKit for passengers in that sense as well. So that's the first thing that I thought about with regard to tvOS possibly coming to some form of iPad mini. The other thing, and probably the most important element of this, is that this news, beyond the idea of new hardware, which I know we all get excited about, is probably more entertaining in the sense of tvOS seeing yet another expansion in its use case, meaning, of course, more resources for the team and a potential of diversifying Apple TV hardware in the future. Now, of course, we know lots of requests in the past have been for a Fire Stick-like portable Apple TV device, and yet they have bared no fruits, likely, I think, due to Apple not wanting to ship an inferior product. But we've heard rumours about an Apple TV soundbar combination, and one would imagine that iPhone 15's A17 chip will eventually make its way down to a version of Apple TV 4K in the future. Now, my question is there a big enough market for an upgraded Apple TV 4K model with gaming aspirations? Or do you think we'll have to wait a couple of years for the A17 to trickle down and become more cost effective to be included in a future Apple TV hardware iteration?
I think Apple's really proud of the GPU work that they've done with this generation of Apple Silicon. And I would not be surprised at all to see an Apple TV model come out with the A17 chip within the next, I don't even know, probably 6 months. I think that would be a really great way to get more people gaming on the Apple TV. Of course, Apple's been pushing really strongly with their gaming partners, trying to get really high caliber AAA games on the Mac and the iPhone. And with this GPU, they could say, yeah, let's just put it on the Apple TV as well and get those developers in the Apple TV App Store. So I think we're going to see this come sooner rather than later for sure. It's also an opportunity, like you said, to make it a higher end version, maybe introduce tiers to the Apple TV product line again. We lived for a long time with the Apple TV 4K and the Apple TV HD, but maybe the next generation is Apple TV Pro and Apple TV 4K, which of course you and I would absolutely love to see. So my prediction, this GPU is going to come to the Apple TV sooner rather than later. And of course you and I will be first in line to pick one up.
100%. If you have a look at any end of year awards lists, you'll see the Apple TV right at the top there for streaming. Of course, the Apple TV 4K isn't the only Apple-related piece of the puzzle gaining awards. We do have a number of nominations this past week. Children's and Family Emmy Awards nominations, 27 of them, Devon. Now, we're not going to say every category, but tell me some of the shows that have received multiple nominations this past week.
Yes, very impressive showing for Apple Originals at the Children's and Family Emmy Awards nominations this year. A bunch for Jane, which of course was one of our favorite family and children's series this year. Several for Helpsters, as well as Best Foot Forward, Slumberkins, Ghost Rider, Fraggle Rock, Back to the Rock, Night of the Lights special, which was a lot of fun. Snoopy Presents Lucy's School, Pinecone and Pony, Interrupting Chicken, Circuit Breakers, Life by Ella, Hello Jack the Kindness Show, Frog and Toad, Get Rolling with Otis, and Shape Island. So many Apple Original children and family series getting nominations this year for the Emmys. Congratulations to all those involved. And of course, we'll be keeping an eye out when those awards are presented later this year in Los Angeles.
Now, one of the shows that was mentioned in that list is Shape Island, which of course we have another special coming up later on in the year during the holiday season. Of course, there was a special for Halloween that's just been, and during my tvOS 17.2 first look, people noticed that, oh, you haven't finished watching the Shape Island Halloween special. Actually, this was my second watch of that special, and I got round to watching it. I think it was probably about 2 a.m. I just wanted something nice and soft, ready for me to try and get some sleep. As I say, my mind races in the early hours with lots of ideas. It's a problem, for sure. But it's not just a problem for me, it's a problem for many, including 2 others across London. Of course, a segue to a recap of one of our favourite British comedy shows in quite a while to come to Apple TV Plus, Still Up.
And this week, we are honored to be joined by Neil-Ann of Mac Stories to talk about Still Up. Neil-Ann, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Hi.
Before we jump into the show itself, tell us a little bit about your work at Mac Stories and what you do.
Yeah, so I've recently joined the team, and Federico has nicely asked me to write articles for the site. So you can find my writing now on Mac Stories at least once a week. I cover tips and tricks, apps, reviews, all sorts of things.
I think the article so far that stood out for me, a new overview of translation on iOS devices. A lot of us are traveling in the next few weeks, pre or post Thanksgiving, and therefore we'll probably be moving into some multilingual households where you don't speak all of the languages. So that's going to come in real handy, and we'll, of course, put a link in the show notes to that. But what you're here for is to talk about a show that we've all enjoyed thoroughly. It is, of course, Still Up. Bonded by insomnia, best friends Lisa and Danny stay connected to each other late into the night and find their way through a world of wonderfully weird surprises as their relationship deepens.
Haven't slept for about 2 months. Chronic insomnia.
Hypnotism, acupuncture, none of it works.
You still up?
How was your day?
Oh, I saw this ad for some new pills called snoozers.
No, they don't knock you out. They just make everything taste like cabbage. Apart from cabbage.
Oh, it's a little dog.
Little? I could put a saddle on it and ride it into town. Sorry, it's my bedtime.
Hey.
There you are. Remember that dating app that you signed me up for? I got a match.
That's great. I kept calling you all night, Lisa.
We're just mates.
Not from where I'm standing.
When I'm sleeping, there's this whole world of Lisas that I know nothing about.
Hello. I'm not stealing. What? What? Oh my God!
What?
There's a big bunch of cows.
Cows?
Did cows attack?
Let me check. Yeah, they do attack, and they kill.
What?
I don't think you know what it's like for your partner to come alive as soon as you go to bed.
I don't know what I want to do.
We're all trying our best. All it takes is that one person to really see you.
Tonight's the big night.
First date. I've come with a few ideas to help her feel more at ease.
Why don't you just put a padlock on your flight? I think that'll really put her at ease.
Because, what do you mean? Oh, really?
No!
Now, that was just a clip from the season that has been. It, of course, stars Antonio Thomas as Lisa, Craig Roberts as Danny, and Blake Harrison as Veggie, and is set in Britain. But before I go on about the Britishness of this show, tell me what you loved about Still Up.
First off, I really like the Britishness of it. So that should be said. I'm really fond of watching British shows in general. First, because your accents are enormously cute. But also, it's more European than most shows. And this one in particular, I really love the cuteness of it all. How it's wholesome and not in just a neat way. You get really attached to the first few characters that you see on screen. And yeah, I really love the show, and I really love the whole vibe around it.
Yeah, to me, this show is so great because it truly is a situational comedy. The humor comes from these situations that Danny and Lisa get themselves into. They're up late. They don't really have other people to connect with other than each other, and they just start making these really bizarre decisions. It just cracks me up every single time. This show, every episode really just had me rolling on the floor laughing. Just the whole premise, I think, is really unique. You know, this idea of insomnia and the fact that these people's days really start when their loved ones' days end. And so they can connect over that. I think that's a neat concept for a series. And I like how contained it is. The character list is very short. We gave the top 3, but I think the total character list is only like 6 people maybe who have names and really appear prominently. It almost feels like it was born of the pandemic in that way, but it also has a much wider scope, I think, than some of the series that we're used to. It's not just them in their apartments. They're also going out to the pharmacy and going out to these different places and going camping. And so it's got a focused nature in that way where you're really spending time with these characters and building a relationship with them, but at the same time you get to go exploring with them and see them in these different environments as well.
I think it's really interesting what you say with regard to it almost feeling like a result of the pandemic in terms of the filmmaking.
Yeah, it really does.
Right? But what I love about this show specifically is, whilst I felt about that the first episode that I got in, with each episode, I started to actually see how our devices have become less of a result of us being isolated and more of a connection device between us and our loved ones and our friends at times where, you know, we're not really supposed to be socializing and interacting. We're supposed to be asleep. As a bit of an insomniac who gets my best ideas at about 1 a.m., I totally gravitated to this show. And for those reasons, I think this is actually probably my favorite comedy this year. One of the other elements that I think is really important about this, and it's very subtle in the way it touches upon this, I have a couple of family friends that suffer from agoraphobia, which is the fear of going out and that kind of social anxiety that can occur. And I think it's tackled delicately as well. So I wanted to give a quick mention to that. Of course, lots and lots of eyes on this show, but probably not enough. So I do want to talk about our favourite episodes and why. Nilian, what is your favourite episode from this 8-episode series, our first of Still Up?
My favourite episode by far is the one called The Road Trip. This is the one where Lisa finds herself in a bit of a situation after getting high and drunk during a night out. And Danny just wants to help her find her way home. And of course, you said he's got a severe agoraphobia and he can't go outside like that on a whim. So at first, he tries really hard to help her from a distance. He kind of has to get out and go help her, and he has no choice. And I love this episode because, well, first, I really connect with Danny. Social anxiety is a thing for me. And this episode touches a lot on each major step that he has to take to overcome this for his biggest friend. It really touched me. And by the end of the episode, I felt really proud of the character, which is something to be said.
Yeah, I love that aspect of the episode. It really was sweet to see him overcome his agoraphobia to help Lisa. I think it really makes you feel for Danny and just really connect with him on a whole other level. I think throughout the series, Danny's that character that you really are rooting for. You just want to see him win. And, he's just tripping over himself the entire way. But it is fun to see him grow, his world grow, and see him get more and more assertive, I think, about the things that he wants out of life. My favorite episode was a little bit more of a comedic one, I think. That was Veggie Veggie Bing Bong, when Lisa and Veggie go camping. And, oh man, that typical thing where one partner is just like way too close to their family and the other partner kind of just wants alone time. I can resonate with that. I'm actually the partner, I think, who's too close to their family and just brings them along to everything. And so I felt for Lisa in that moment in the sense of that's something I have to keep in check as well. But that ridiculous game that they play around the campfire that night and the way that Danny's trying to help Lisa along the way over FaceTime. And of course, that's also a big episode plot-wise. It's kind of a turning point, I think, for Lisa and her relationship with Veggie. So it does have kind of a little bit of a deeper turn at the end, but mostly I just enjoyed seeing them play that ridiculous game. And also Danny's storyline throughout the episode where there's the handyman who's fixing his bathroom and he's so intimidated by this guy who, seems so manly and masculine. And then it turns out that he's in the middle of a lover's spat and Danny gets drawn in and you really get to see this other side of this guy and Danny trying to help these two people resolve their relationship. I thought that was also hilarious and just a really cool twist on that stereotype of the handyman as well. So that was my favorite episode.
Definitely a great one. I like it.
I got to say, my favorite episode is, and it's for a number of reasons. It's called The Dress. I think it was episode 2 of the season. And as someone that is reliant on public transport, being on a bus, especially late at night, and having to deal with people that are intoxicated, being very loud, and wanting to shush them so much. I am a shusher, right? So seeing Lisa shush them, I was just like, yeah, go on, Lisa. But at the same time, I was annoyed at Lisa because she starts the episode off just talking on her phone on loudspeaker, which to me is worse still. But she does switch to her AirPods, so I'll give her that. It just took her a little bit of time. And all of these different little elements, for example, there's a lady, the bus is pretty much empty, but the lady that comes on decides to sit right next to her. I've been through that, and I actually went through that during lockdown with someone on a bus.
Oh, no.
And that got into a bit of an argument. Honestly, there was just so much about this, but the element that I thought was really, really interesting and comedic was the whole, how do I deal with returning this dress? And in the process, losing it on a bus because she leaves it behind for a second. And then suddenly one of the people that she shushes is wearing this dress. They get into this confrontation. The worst kind of people jump to her defense. And she very quickly is like, hey, I'm not on the side of you, right? Men can wear dresses as well. Everyone's free to express themselves however they want. And I just absolutely loved that episode. And I thought also it was a great example of London life.
I've not had the privilege of visiting your city yet, Sigmund. It's a place I would love to go someday, but I think I'm definitely going to have to keep an eye out on the bus because I like my space. I don't like people sitting right up next to me. But regardless of that, Still Up, I think a very special series, one that none of us really saw coming. It just kind of came out of the blue, but one that I'm glad we were all able to enjoy. I hope other people will enjoy it as well. And I've got my fingers crossed for a season 2 announcement before too long, because this is a one that I would really like to see more of.
Yeah, that would be lovely. Also, just to say, the dress situation is such a weird one. Like, why would someone wear the dress? When that episode came, it really felt like the series was starting in a new direction that I was not expecting. Great one.
The complete first season of Still Up is now streaming across all of your screens on Apple TV+. Nilian will join us with her Up Next picks. But first, let's begin with a different type of Up Next. Of course, this week's Apple TV releases.
On Apple Arcade this week, we've got 2 big releases. Of course, we mentioned these during the holiday slate announcement. But this Friday, we've got Not Words Plus from Zach Gage. Really fun word puzzle game that kind of took Mastodon by storm when it came out a little while back. And now it's available on Apple Arcade for those who haven't tried it out yet. And Monday sees the release of Football Manager 2024 Touch from Sega and Sports Interactive. This one is going to be very exciting for those who played last year's iteration of the game because you'll be able to carry over your game save to this year's version and pick up where you left off. So if you've been investing in that over the past year, it's cool to see that you'll be able to carry on to the next version and play this year's season as well.
I'm so happy to hear that, Devon, because I've nearly got enough money to buy Lionel Messi. Of course, the once again Ballon d'Or winner, and I think the first ever Ballon d'Or winner to play in the MLS. The Ballon d'Or means you are the best footballer in the world, as voted by your peers. So fantastic news there. And I should also say that, funnily enough, when trying to research MOS ahead of a new podcast that's going to be launching in time for the second season on MOS Season Pass, I was told, the best place to go? Football Manager. You'll learn so much. So I've been playing a lot of Football Manager 2023 and will be, of course, transitioning over to Football Manager 2024 next week. Let's talk about our Apple Originals this week. Starting on Friday, we have the premiere of our highlight, of course, Fingernails, alongside a new episode of Lessons in Chemistry. It's a show that just gets better week after week. Brie Larson is incredible in this. Highly, highly recommend. I know lots of eyes will be on her role in The Marvels coming, I think, next week, at least in the UK. But really, Lessons in Chemistry is where it's at. On Wednesday, we see the finale to The Morning Show, which we'll be recapping next week, alongside a premiere of our other shorter highlight, the Buccaneers. And on top of that, we have extras. This week, Zane Lowe interviewed Martin Scorsese in the Apple Music Studios, a fantastic long-form interview. And also, this just appeared, I think, today in the TV app. For All Mankind, they released their timelines to give you an idea of what happened between the previous season and the season to come. They've done it again, this time with an alternative timeline for the events between 1996 and 2001, now available in the TV app. And cannot wait to talk about that show next week with yet another special guest. But we cannot end the week without talking about a highlight for Wednesday, and that is, of course, The Buccaneers, a show that we've been highly anticipating about a group of fun-loving American girls bursting onto the scene in tightly corseted 1870s London, kicking off an Anglo-American culture clash sent to secure husbands and status. The Buccaneers' hearts are set on much more than that.
Americans, they're all new money. I'm quite sure they'll be frightful.
Here is to a new world. Marriages, parties, men.
Well, I have no interest in all that. I can admire myself, can't I?
But darlings, we always come first. This is our love story.
So this series is based on Edith Wharton's unfinished final novel, created by Catherine Jakeways, starring Christine Froseth as Nan, Imogen Waterhouse as Ginny, Nan's sister, Alicia Bowe as Conchita, Josie Totar as Mabel, and Aubrey Ibrag as Lizzie. Devon, I know this is the kind of show that's completely your jam. Tell me about the Buccaneers and what everyone's got to look forward to beginning Wednesday.
Yeah, this is one I've really been looking forward to. The series kicks off its debut episode, American Poison, at the wedding of Nan's best friend Conchita, where she marries British Lord Richard despite his parents' disapproval. Richard then invites Nan, her sister Ginny, and their two friends Mabel and Lizzie to join him in London. There they attend a ball held by the parents of Duke Theodore, meant to help him find a wife. While Ginny tries to fit into British society and get married, Nan's rambunctious behavior draws undue attention. She gets into a bit of trouble with a mysterious young man named Guy and finds herself sent away from the city to the coast, where she unknowingly runs into Theo and catches his eye, setting up an interesting love triangle and some interesting questions as well, including how will Nan react when she finds out who Theo really is? What is Guy really up to? And how much trouble are these ladies going to cause as they run through London, leaving havoc behind them? Regardless of how things play out, I think we're in for a lot of fun this season. Even from just the very first few minutes of the series, it's very apparent from the get-go how incompatible this group of friends is with the uptight culture that they've entered into. It's very funny. Of course, they go to London and they're just very loud and expressive, and even just the way they walk up the stairs, you just hear their feet all the way up, and in this very quiet and, just restrained home. It's just that very typical, American stereotype of just, not having a lot of control or tact. It's very funny seeing these two cultures contrasted in this way through this group of young women. The series includes a lot of complicated issues of marriage, status, money, and competition, not to mention the emotions underlying it all. You've got Nan, the younger sister, who's always drawing attention without really meaning to, and then Ginny, the older sister, who's supposed to be the one off getting married and courting and things like that, but she can't seem to get out of her sister's shadow, and that causes some issues between the two of them. But you've also got the fact that they're not the only American family traveling. Of course, their friends, Mabel and Lizzie, go along with them, and so they're looking for husbands as well, and their mothers are looking out for their daughters, and so they're all friends, but there's also this friendly or maybe not so friendly competition between them going on, because there's a lot of money and power at stake throughout all of these relationships, right? Nan, who's the main character, played by Christine Froseth, says she wants to stay out of it all. She's naive in that way, thinking that she can stay above it, that she doesn't need to get married and get involved in all these complicated things. I think it's pretty apparent that she's not going to be able to stay out of those things for long, especially as she's already drawn the attention of these two young men, one of whom is a duke, which causes quite a stir. So this is a fun one. I'm really enjoying getting to know the characters. It's a really fun group. Getting to see their friendship from the get-go is also very touching. And of course, the soundtrack is just wonderful with some of today's top female artists included in this 1870s setting, which just works in a way that I can't explain, but in a way that I really do enjoy.
We've drawn already some comparisons between the Buccaneers and Dickinson, which we loved, of course. That's over. Is this for fans of Dickinson?
Oh, 100%. This is definitely going to appeal to fans of Dickinson. The time period, the soundtrack, the attitude, it's all there and it's all great. You're not getting the poetry as much, but there is some culture thrown in as well. You got to get that time period. So yeah, if you enjoy Dickinson, you're going to love the Buccaneers. And you're really going to enjoy that the first 3 episodes are available this Wednesday on Apple TV+.
Before we end our episode, we welcome back Nilian, because of course, we've got to talk about what else is available in the TV app for us to peruse. And this week is a very, very strong week with some very, very strong recommendations. But we start with Devon, who, as we all know, has a bit of a curse. So it's time to lift it. We are past Halloween. We don't want to hear any creepy voiced demons anymore. What have you got for us, Devon?
Well, this week for my next pick, I want to take a moment to honor the life of Matthew Perry, who we unfortunately lost far too young this week. And so my up next pick is, of course, his most notable work, Friends, a sitcom that means a lot to so many people, including myself. I came to Friends when I was older. I didn't watch it growing up, but when it came to streaming, it's a series that has brought a lot of light to a lot of people, especially his performance as Chandler Bing. Just such a funny person, someone with so much humor and light to give. Of course, coming from a life that was a struggle in a lot of ways, someone who overcame addiction and those struggles in order to bring that light to the world. Matthew Perry, by all accounts, a wonderful person who not only gave us these wonderful performances, including Friends, but also other work, including The West Wing, Numb, Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, The Good Wife, The Good Fight, and Go On. But also his testimony as someone with these struggles, willing to be open about them and willing to help other people who are dealing with it. I think someone definitely worth commemorating and remembering. And so this week I'm going to take some time and revisit some of my favorite episodes of Friends, especially those Chandler heavy ones, and remember fondly the life of Matthew Perry.
Nilian, you have some incredible up next picks, a few in fact, to share with us this week.
Yes, I do. My first one would be a film that really touched me when I saw it for the first time. It's called A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, starring the great Tom Hanks. It's a really lovely story about Mr. Rogers and the way he helped a really saddened journalist who didn't see much light in his life, and he helped him see more love and embrace the love in his life. I have many things to say about this movie. Just go watch it if you haven't already. It's lovely, it's wholesome, it makes you want to hug someone when you're done watching it. I have another pick. It's a very different one. It's a movie called Victoria from 2015. I don't know if you've heard about it. I know it's not as popular as it should be. It's a movie that is one single long shot.
I love
that was filmed in Berlin. It tells the story of a young Spanish girl who's been in Germany for not long. And as she comes out of a nightclub, we follow her in the streets of Berlin as she encounters a group of boys and goes on an adventure. And it takes quite a turn. I shouldn't say more because that's the whole point of it. You should watch it. And the entire film is real time. It's one single long shot. It begins when she comes out of the nightclub. It ends when the sun comes up. My final pick is Heima. Heima is a musical film. A musical film by the band Sigur Rós, which is my favorite band ever. This musical film is when they did a surprise tour of Iceland back in 2006 with a series of surprise concerts in all the remote parts of Iceland, surprising all the villagers living there and playing them lovely music. The landscape is beautiful, the setting is beautiful, the music is beautiful. I still love to put in a background sometime when I work on something or when I would just want to feel better.
I love especially that final pick because you started off musical. Devon got all excited. And I think it's going to be something a little bit different. I highly recommend Devon checks this out. And I boosted this post because you posted about Sigur Rós earlier this week.
Yes, I did.
Over on Mastodon. I am also a big Sigur Rós fan, and I'm happy to say that the soundtrack for Causeway is now available again for vinyl order from Lakeshore Records. And I mention that because that soundtrack is from longtime Sigur Rós collaborator Alex Summers. So a year on from Causeway's release, we have the soundtrack, and you can purchase the physical version of that. Now, when it comes to digital releases this week, there are two that I wanted to quickly mention. Dumb Money, which is the ultimate David versus Goliath tale based on an insane true story from just a few years ago, where the story was almost flipped on Wall Street, who had got rich by turning GameStop, yes, the male video game store, into the world's hottest company. In the middle of everything is this regular guy called Keith Gill, played by Paul Dano, who starts it all by sinking his life savings into the stock that's being crushed by Wall Street. And when his social media posts start blowing up, so does his life and the lives of everyone following him. As a stock tip becomes a movement, everyone gets rich until the billionaires fight back and both sides find their worlds turned upside down. This also stars alongside Paul Dano quite a cast. Pete Davidson, America Ferrera, Seth Rogen is in this as well. Quite a cast from director Craig Gillespie. And that releases on November 7th. And releasing the same day is a film that I actually recommended when it first made its appearance on Roku. Now being made available for purchase in the TV app is Weird, the Al Yankovic story, starring Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al Yankovic. What I love about this is that it's not just a story of Weird Al Yankovic, but it's also an exaggerated true story with lots of famous people played by lookalikes. It is bonkers, very entertaining, some funny songs, as you would expect from Weird Al, alongside his most famous works. Those three are my recommendations this week across, of course, both Apple Music, physical release, and digital releases on the TV app.
A great set of recommendations for everyone this week. And of course, we want to thank Nilian for joining us on the episode this week. Nilian, where can people find you online?
So you can find me on Mastodon. You can also find me on a podcast. I'm the co-host of a French podcast, so if any French listeners out there. It's called On a tout vu, and it's a show where we watch TV shows and we analyze them, only having seen the pilot and the finale of the show. It's a really weird one, and we love it.
I love that concept. Fantastic.
Yeah, it is. We love it.
Well, Sigmund, I believe that's all for this week. Thanks again to Nilian for joining us for that conversation, and thanks to you for listening. Of course, we'd love to hear your feedback, so follow us on Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review there. You can also contact us on social media via the links in the show notes, or you can email the show or send us an iMessage to mrolfm@screentimes.net. We'll be back next week to recap the morning show and blast into the aughts with For All Mankind. So until then, stay safe, watch some Apple TV, play some Apple Arcade, and...
I'm going to end this episode on one of my favourite quotes from Fingernails. Watching a love story feels safe. Being in love doesn't.